That's no moon. It's a space station.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. A few quick reminders. We still have the promo code going for Hopewell Farms CBD. If you're looking to try a new CBD, Hopewell Farms CBD is amazing. Their topical ointment is amazing as well. You can save 15% off all their products with promo code JTT. Thanks. That link is below in the description. So take advantage of that sale. And tickets are available for our conference May 12th through the 15th in Grafton, Illinois, Rebels of Disclosure 2025. It is our last year at the Pierre Marquette Lodge. For now, we may come back one day for a reunion conference, but for now, this will be our final year there. So if you've been wanting to come, now is your chance to come and don't miss out on that opportunity. Tickets are available at journeytotruth.online, and we hope to see you there. So today's guest is Soma Arah. She's a Pleiadian channel, and she's been channeling Pleiadians since she was 8 or 12 years old. She's been doing it for a long time, and she's received quite a bit of messages over the years, and she's still in contact with them now. She is the author of the book, The Pleiadian Child, and we're very happy to have her with us today. So welcome to the show, Soma.
Thank you. Thank you both very much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and very much looking forward to sharing some things with you.
Yeah, and we're delighted to hear what you have to share. And so for our audience who doesn't know who you are, maybe you can just briefly tell us how you started channeling, and I think people would really be interested in hearing the current messages that you're getting right now as far as, I know you've talked about weather warfare and some predictions coming up and stuff like that. Whatever you feel guided to share with us, that's on you. So we'll turn it over to you and we'll just go from there.
Thank you. So my story is kind of back to front, but I began to leave my body as a child due to some traumatic events that I was having that lasted right up until I was about 13. And then they kind of tailed off, the traumatic events. But what would happen is I would leave my body, and the first memory I have, one of the first memories I have, is when I was 8 and I left my body unconnected to the Pleiadians. And it didn't last very long at all. But I didn't realize who they were. I didn't know who they were. But my childhood was spent really connecting to them and receiving downloads of information and esoteric natural laws, I guess, about the universe and us, and a lot came through as a child about Egypt. And I remember one particular instance when I was 12, when I walked into the lounge and the news was on, and there was an image of the Sphinx, and it was back in the 80s, 1980s, and I don't know what they were discussing, but my mum was watching it. I walked in and I saw an image, and then in that second, in those moments, I was given the download of information, and I was kind of held in this vortex of energy where I couldn't move, which has happened to me a lot over the years. And I always know it's the Pleiadians around. But anyway, this image I saw on the news, I was given a download of information from the Pleiades, where I could see an image of the Sphinx in my mind's eye, and I could see the pores of the Sphinx, and I could see steps going down. And one of the pores, I forget which now, but it is in my book, so it's recorded, whether it was the left or right paw, but the steps as you go down, and there being a secret cavern, a secret space. And I was given that when I was 12. So yeah, I've so I started to.
Do you know if that would be the halls of Amenti that you're referring to, underneath the Sphinx? Isn't that what's under the Sphinx, apparently, Aaron?
in a higher dimension, not
Right.
in the physical third dimension. Yeah.
I believe so. I've heard many stories about things that are under the Sphinx, and there have been shown a lot of information over the years about Egypt and other things. But a lot of the things they do download with me are it doesn't really go against what a lot of the alternative people are sharing and announcing and disclosing. You know, a lot of it ties in with disclosure, but it's always interesting when they share predictions. And they did. So before I go into that, let me just explain that I started to channel them as a child. And my first memory, one of my first memories is when I was 8. But I had a lot of experiences with them, and I didn't have a normal schooling. They actually put a wall of energy in front of the school gates so that I couldn't enter. And I tried several times to enter the school system, and I just couldn't. Sometimes I would be standing there for about an hour, just held again in this vortex of energy where I couldn't move. And I always know it's them when that happens, and it's normally a safety mechanism that kicks in. And I've also had that when I was learning to drive, where my driving instructor it's kind of a funny story because he was just looking at me because I stopped in the middle of the road and couldn't move. And then a few minutes before, I witnessed a car accident in front of me. So I think he kind of got it then. So my ages between 12 and 16 were spent alone at home in my room, reading and meditating and receiving downloads, although I didn't know it was called meditation at the time. And I didn't know it was the Pleiadians. But then to cut a long story short, I got involved in spiritualism, and then into Buddhism, and then into shamanic practices. And then during the shamanic practices, and trainings, I began to have memories of having connected to them as a child. And those shamanic trainings, I started in Ireland in, I think it was 2010 or 2011. Around that time, I began, and that was actually after I consciously began to channel the Pleiadians, which was in 2009, 2010. And then I started to do the shamanic work and trainings where I began to have memories of having connected to them as a child. Because a lot of my childhood I had forgotten through trauma. And then as I began to write, I began to channel the Pleiadians. And it was actually through a lot of synchronicities. But I was sent an email by who I believed at the time was just a guy that was a little bit crazy and random and didn't know me from at all. But his name was Joshua Shapiro, the Crystal Skull Explorer, who sent me a random email saying that we should work together, and that the Pleiadians had given my name to him, which we've recently reconnected and done some interviews around that. But that really, I hold him he's a very important part in my story and the channeling and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But more recently, they have shared a lot of predictions and a lot of information about COVID and just, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll get into that, but something that you said reminded me of, I don't know if you're familiar with Sherry Divband, but she works with children a lot and their higher selves. And when we interviewed her, she told us a lot of the children actually can see a frequency net around the schools, and they won't want to go in because they see this dome, like an energetic dome, right? And they like the through the sessions, this comes through the kids, but the kids can't, they can't vocalize this to their parents, right? Because they don't really understand what the resistance is. So what you described reminded me of what Sherry claims that a number of kids are experiencing, actually. They know innately that there's something wrong about that education system. And if they're a starseed here on a mission, then obviously there's probably going to be some, an extra nudge to make sure that they stay away from that. So just an interesting data point to corroborate. And yeah, so let's get into some of the predictions then. So when did you start getting your first predictions? Or even if it's not a prediction, just some of the messages that have come through that you think people should hear?
Well, they started to consciously channel with me in 2009, I believe. And it took me quite a long time to process some of the information that I was getting, because it is so, especially at the time, a lot of the information that we have now, even though it's to do with disclosure and alternative, it really wasn't out at that time. But one of the first things they said was that every system on Earth is run by negative ET energy. And it took me a good few years to really process that, because it's not just about hearing the words, but it's understanding on a deeper level that the world is not what we thought it was, which is becoming, a lot of people are starting to talk about that now, and understand that we are living in a very different world than what we're shown and what is presented to us through media and information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's
Absolutely.
spot on, and that's crumbling now. That's why that's why it's even being, that's why we even know about it, because it's being brought to the surface so we can see what always has been, right? And that's interesting. It has to be interesting getting that information years before it's kind of, publicly available, because that's hard to deal with. Now we hear it and people are like, oh yeah, I've been seeing stuff online all over about that. But, back then it's a little different.
Yeah. And I mean, when we think of, I remember watching David Icke in that interview with Terry Wogan. And I remember looking at him and thinking, wow, he really knows his stuff. And so there's always people at the forefront that are thought of as crazy, or conspiracy theorists before their time. But I really would like to share some of the, I made a list of some of the information that they've shared with me over the years. And I won't have time to go into it, but just if it's okay with you guys to do that, because there's some information there.
Yeah, absolutely. You're
Yeah,
fine with
please
that,
do.
Aaron, right?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Did you have any questions or for her before we do that, Aaron?
No, not yet. Please, yeah, I would love to hear this. Yeah.
Okay. So, at the time of COVID, I was living in the UK and I hadn't channeled them for a while. So I went into my garden, and I had a big, beautiful garden at the time, and I channeled a lot of information regarding COVID and what was really going on. Because I actually had a lot of anxiety around it. So there's a whole load of information regarding that, which is in my book called What's Really Going On. Yeah. Okay. So weather predictions. They recently shared, just before Hurricane Helena was announced or any information was given, they shared information about that, which was, they showed me an image of America, and they showed me the East Coast and the West Coast. And they showed me lots of images of kind of like circles where weather events would take place. But I'm with Hurricane Helena, they told me about a week before anything was released. And I sat with it a couple of days, 2 to 3 days before I released it, because I wanted to make sure that it was 100% accurate. I didn't want, because something like that, that's not to diminish any of the other information, but something like that, where it affects people's lives, is, I always find it's more, I think important is the wrong word, but it's, it can be very devastating to people. So I did release it about a week before, as a kind of an emergency call out, which I sometimes do when they give certain predictions. So some of the other information is, and it,
Well, can I ask you a question really quick? Did they say anything about it being natural or man-made?
yes, yes, they did. That's a great question for the times we're in. They have most definitely technology that is being misused to create disasters and events and situations on our planet Earth. Of that, there's no doubt, and I don't think there's any doubt really that those technologies are being used to. Some of those technologies are being used to create natural disasters or premeditated, organized events to cause devastation, because it lowers one of the reasons being is that it lowers the frequency of humanity, which is really what they are striving to achieve more than ever.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah.
That resonates definitely. I mean, it's kind of, even the evidence is there. If you look at the next gen radar and stuff like, or next red, I think it's called, you can definitely see evidence of microwave technologies and laser beams, for lack of a better term, that are manipulating the weather, heating up and cooling down certain areas to steer a storm, whatever the case may be. So the evidence is there to support all of that.
Scalar technology, which is what Tesla was a big, a lot of what Tesla was inventing was scalar tech, and it got confiscated and weaponized against humanity. And there was people before Tesla as well, and there's been ET stuff we've gotten from the ET craft and ETs and stuff like that. That instead of that being used to benefit humanity, it's all been for the last 100+ years weaponized against humanity. And this weather warfare is just one aspect of many things that have been going on for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all changing. It's all changing now, though. Like everything, the cleanup process is well underway now, and the truth and disclosure is all coming out, and we're able to now take our power back and create the planet we actually want to have now. So I feel like that is well underway right now. So I don't know if you've been getting information about that as well.
I have. They showed me information about the two Earths, which I never really understood. I'd often heard it, but when COVID kicked off in the UK in 2019, during those downloads and transmissions, the new Earth was included, and how it would occur on an energetic level, or how it would. They explained it to me in a very simple way. How it would occur, where there would be two Earths, because I'd always questioned that. How is that possible?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's like, how does that play out exactly? What does that mean?
Yeah, can you kind of elaborate on that a little bit, on what that looks like?
I'd love to, thank you. So they they showed me an image. I think it was January 2020, where they showed me an image of January or February, where they showed me an image of two beams of light hitting the Earth. that would really, and if you can imagine a torch beam of light coming down and hitting the earth, and these energies at the time would become so intensified, they would just be increasing and increasing and increasing to such a velocity that it would cause the earth to twist and multiply and become two earths, and one earth would go into a higher dimension, frequency, energy, and the other would either stay where it was or it would drop into an even lower vibration, dimension, frequency. And that is how they very easily explained to me in a very visual way the two earths and how that would occur. And normally when I get downloads, I'm in two, it comes in two ways. I get very visual images which also contain information that is sometimes missed in the clairaudience, I'd call it, because I do hear them. I do hear them.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you for that
Yeah.
explanation. So I guess let's move forward. What else has come through?
Okay. So lots of information has been coming through recently regarding DNA codes, and DNA and specific codes of starseeds. And I know that they have a lot more to share around those that isn't out there at the moment. So that'll be interesting to see what comes through. Ascension, giants, underground tunnels, which I've been seeing since 2009, and I never really understood the importance until the last couple of years of some of those tunnels. But there's also a tunnel that goes from the west coast of Ireland to America, which is walkable, and that is under the sea or the seabed.
Yep.
The 13th star sign, the 13 crystal skulls, the 13 statues on Easter Island, 13, 13, 13, 13, so many different important things around 13. Florida, they gave me information during one of my weekly groups in a channeling about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe a month before the Florida landing, which they predicted. And I haven't been able to remember.
What you mean a Florida landing? What do you mean?
So there was a Florida landing that there was a landing of a being in Florida. I think it was either this year or last year. I think it was this year, where there was some type of creature that was on video, and there was a lot of police turning up, like hundreds of police.
Oh, the Miami Mall incident is what you're talking about. Miami Mall incident. Yeah.
I think, that was January. It was like right at the start of the year. Yeah.
That was the very beginning of the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes the information they come through with, it really blows my mind, because they, in a recording for my weekly groups that I do, I was in a channeling and they had predicted that before anything was known about it at all. So I do have it on record. I just can't remember the date of it. But it was maybe 2, 3, or 4 weeks previous to that event occurring that they shared it. So if people want to check that out, it's out there on YouTube.
What did they actually say about that landing or about that event? Like, what was the purpose?
They said that there would be a genuine landing in Florida. I don't think they said when, but if they did, I would have, I would have shared it. And they didn't say much else about that at the time. They kept it very simple.
Right. It was just the fact that it was going to happen. Right. Okay.
Yeah, that it was going to happen, and sometimes with the predictions when they share things like that, it's really nice that they do it, because then I know, and other people can clarify that situation is a genuine situation or occurrence or experience,
Right.
rather than being a fake landing or a fake situations, which are to come, because there are so one of the things they've also said is that there will be genuine landings to come, and also fake landings to come. So we'll have to be very discerning. So for me personally, when I do watch things like that, if I haven't been given any information, I'm very much on the fence with things, because the technology is so widely advanced that they can um, manipulate situations and create things that look very real, that are not real at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's important to know moving forward. I mean, we're already seeing it online with all the AI technology and deepfake technology. I mean, some of
Mhm.
these videos, like if I didn't know any better, I'm like, that looks so real. It's actually pretty scary, you know? And so when I see any footage of anything, I just don't know what to believe anymore. So I don't put too much energy into it unless I'm like intuitively guided to pay attention to a specific event, then I will. Um, but
And there's obviously the hologram technology that looks super real, and everyone's talking about the fake alien invasion. Obviously, that's been the Cabal has had that as their last card to play for a long time. Werner von Braun talked about it on his deathbed. The question is, it's not a question of if it was. It's always been known it was their plan, but the question is, are they going to be able to pull it off? And if they do, to what degree?
right.
And that's what everyone's kind of wondering, like, are we about to experience that? Are they going to be able to pull that off to some degree? How is that going to play out? Do you have any information dealing with like a fake alien invasion scenario?
I think there will be most definitely a fake and a genuine. And I think that the way that they're going to do it with the technology is to make it appear that the fake one is real and the real one is fake. That's my feeling, because everything is inverted and
Mhm.
switched.
Yeah.
So, and I think there will be several small events or landings, but I do think there will be um, a major one that will be very real, and people will not believe it, but they will believe the fake one. That's what I feel is coming, and I feel that is coming over the next, if not 2025, then most certainly the next couple of years.
Well, I almost think it's kind of already happening. We've had this huge UFO flap, and globally,
Yeah,
people have been recording, cell phone footage of mass sightings.
tons of UFOs,
And
right?
but also, okay, what is the media running with? They're running with drones. Like drone is like the new UFO.
Weather balloon, swamp gas.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but there are drones, but there is footage of drones in New Jersey, like actual drones and like these weird helicopters that are kind of rare, but not many people have seen before. So I'm looking at all this. I'm like, okay, what they're doing to me, if I was the bad guys, I would just send out the drones and muddy the water, confuse the hell out of people. And people are going to wonder, like, what are they doing? Are they on some sort of mission? Is this a reconnaissance? Whatever it is. And maybe their ultimate goal is just like to fly around in the skies and put fear into people and literally confuse them whenever there are real sightings happening. Then they're going to come up and send out the drones of their craft to literally like do exactly what you just said, to make it, to muddy the waters and confuse people, and they're going to invert everything. So I think it's already happening, and maybe we'll see that expand into something bigger. But
Mm-hmm.
you're muted.
And they also want you to think it's a scary, to be in fear of it as well, which is why they're always pushing the threat narrative. It's all a threat. It's
Right.
we need to weaponize against it. We need, they're always pushing that fear narrative. And if they can't have you in fear of it, they at least want you to just not believe it's real, which is why they do the fake stuff so they can discredit all of it.
Right. Yeah. Oh, see, look, it's just a rare helicopter. Go back
Right.
to work.
Yeah, nothing to see here.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, move along.
Right.
Right. Nothing to see here.
And I think that there are a lot of fake things that they are doing with technology and UFOs at the moment, in order almost as a prelude to something much bigger, and to put fear into people as well. But it is amazing times we are in, and there are going to be. I'm absolutely stand in the knowing of that there will be fake and genuine landings, and it's going to be so difficult even for people like us to who are very discerning, I think.
Mhm.
And to really know what is what. And I think a lot of us do take more time now to question things and to stand back a bit and look at things and see, is this what is going on here? Is this genuine or not?
So, can I ask you one more question before we move on to the next thing? You mentioned about learning of the purpose of the underground tunnels and what that network actually was for. I mean, we've talked about this many times, but I'm just curious to see if what you've, channeled corroborates,
Yeah. Okay. So, some of the things they showed me as a child, I didn't believe them as a child. I questioned everything, even as a child. But one of the things that I always questioned was they showed me, I think I was around 8 or 9, when I could see images of dinosaurs walking with man. And I've been very cautious around that subject. And I'm not a researcher, so I don't research things, very little. But that was one of the informations they gave me as a child. And they also showed me tunnels beneath the earth as a child, and especially in Egypt. And a lot of them, and it's not just tunnels, it's cities, it's underground caverns, it's underground caves, it's different kind of spaces under the earth's surface. And sometimes these tunnels are under vast oceans that are just vast in depth. And sometimes they're not as deep, sometimes they're very shallow. But it's different spaces. So sometimes it's tunnels, it's caverns, it's cities, it's different areas and different spaces that are and have been used for different purposes, different reasons, sometimes good reasons in history, where to do with the galactic wars, where we actually hid in cities for survival techniques. A lot of the underground tunnels, I've only just discovered the last couple of years what some of these tunnels are actually used for, which leaves me with a feeling of just shock, actually, a feeling of shock that I've known this for so long, and yet I didn't know some of the true reasons that these tunnels were being used for such evil atrocities against children and humanity, and that leaves me cold. That they perhaps for my own protection, because I do tend to get very emotional with some of the information that they share. So some of the areas during the galactic wars were used for survival, as a place of safety. Some of them were used to, what's coming to mind is Area 51 for different scientific experiments on hybrids and some of the very darker experiments and beings that they've created. So there's different areas for different reasons.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a beautiful answer. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, now we can move forward.
Okay. So they've recently said in a specific download when I was doing a reading for someone that giants are still in existence, and I was seeing an image of Scotland. And I was seeing an image of a giant with red hair that was underground. And that looked most definitely was Scotland, very much in the Highlands, very much north of Scotland. So perhaps on one of the islands, or some type of area that is extremely remote. Okay, so let me see. Okay, so
Go ahead.
sorry, go on.
I was going to ask, so what, it's just the giants are still here. They're going to be becoming part of the narrative moving forward. We're going to discover their existence. What's the what does that look like?
Okay, so I have actually written much more information down than I thought. But so on a broader scale, something they've shared with me is that our whole history and science and who we are, why we're here, where we're from, the whole thing has been a complete lie. And there will be many discoveries coming to light over the next few years. They keep they have been saying that to me a lot lately, where there will be new discoveries made. There will be of things that are beneath the Earth's surface. So, and that when they show me that, when they tell me that, when they show me the image, I see different things, objects, discoveries. I see caverns, I see caves, I see tunnels, all of those things I was just speaking about. And I also see pyramids and a lot of hieroglyphics and text kind of etched into stone. And I do see giants, not skulls, but the whole body. I see skeletons. I see skeletons, sorry, and artifacts and drawings and just so much hidden beneath the surface. And I do, in certain areas, I see water being pulled back, the ocean being pulled back, and things being exposed. And most specifically to do with Florida and pyramids in that area, vicinity. So there is, I mean, basically our whole history, and then and then also with Tartaria and the Great Reset, and they term the Great Reset as a positive phrase that has been hijacked and inverted to mean something else. But the Great Reset is, for them, a positive understanding. It's a positive thing where we are stepping into ascension and everything is coming to light and things are being disclosure. We are the disclosure. Disclosure is never going to come from governments, because they are part of the negative agenda that wants to and does cover up everything.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that more evidently in politics, in our recent history, with certain politicians that have been assassinated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And I find it interesting, the water being pulled back, and and things like pyramids revealing themselves, especially in particular in the Florida area, because that's the Bermuda Triangle, and there's allegedly a crystal pyramid underground there, which is a technology, an Atlantean technology. And, I can't imagine that the water is being pulled back that far for that pyramid to be exposed, but maybe a landmass will rise. I mean, who knows? We don't know what to expect, but I find it very interesting, because I've been drawn to Florida a lot, and I do think that there are some truths to be revealed. So that's interesting. I'll keep my eye on that.
And that is some other information that they did share with me as a child, that I was always having. I became so good as a child at leaving my body, most especially in the dream time when I was asleep. And a dream I would always have was of a tsunami hitting, I believe it's New York. And those two pieces of information are in my book, The Pleiadian Child, which was published in, I think, 2011, 2010. And they do talk about a tsunami hitting New York. And they also do talk about a pyramid being found in Florida, I believe. So those, for me, it's always very important that I record dates and times of when the information is given to me, so that people can't come along and say, well, you didn't receive this until after the fact.
Right.
So some of the other information they've shared is Area 51. I've had a lot of transmissions regarding that area and some of the horrendous experiments that they are doing. And it's not limited to Area 51, which I'm not actually sure if they've closed yet or not, but there are other areas that are similar within America and other countries. So the galactic wars, the cloaking devices, none of this is actually in order, but also Trump has a very direct connection to the Pleiadians, in a very physical way, using technology and ships.
Can we elaborate on that a little bit? Do you, or is that all you have with Trump?
Okay, so I think it was 2020 where I was having these dreams of Trump. I was taken down to some type of underground bunker that was very small, perhaps the size of this room. And it wasn't square, but it was longer than it was wider. So it was quite narrow. You could kind of reach your two arms out and you would have touched the sides of the walls. And there was a bed in there, kind of a metal bed, with blankets, kind of like grey army blankets. The bed was very neatly made. And I sat on the bed with Trump and we were talking. And there was this blue light coming from his fingers. I remember that. And I remember he was showing me documents or some type of legal documents or a contract that he was drawing up at the time. I didn't really know or understand what that was because he didn't show me in detail. But this was a very real astral experience for me. And there was a lot of light coming from him. And then in the next instance, I was in a similar space, but I was with Putin, all again in some type of underground bunker. And I was speaking to him. And I knew in that instance that Trump and Putin were working together, as friends in a very, and colleagues, and a very close relationship. To do with a lot of the off-world activity, and so they both are working very closely with Pleiadian energies, and very closely, although that may not be what is in the public domain, but they are working very closely together and very good friends, and are very knowledgeable on technology and contact and all of that stuff.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
It-
I mean, I've always had that feeling too, Trump and Putin. I mean, you can even tell that you can see their camaraderie in the photos and the videos, and I mean, there's so much more going on behind the scenes there, and that we're not going to get in the mainstream. But that resonates. I've a lot of people speculate the Trumps are connected with the Pleiadians or Pleiadians themselves. I'm sure there's intergalactic council meetings that happen that occur all the time underground, maybe even off planet. We don't actually know who these people are and what technologies they're privy to, but some of these meetings can be happening off planet for all we know with our leaders. Were you going to say something, Aaron?
I was just going to say, even just by what Putin publicly has said many times, you can tell he's against the New World Order, the cabal. He has publicly called them out. He says there's a satanic elite, globalist elite that is trying to take over, and he is against them. And he's like, America has been taken over, which it was until now. We're finally, taking it back. By this satanic elite, and he has publicly called him out. So he would not do that if he was a part of the club. I mean, you can make the argument controlled opposition, blah blah blah. I don't think that's the case with either Trump or Putin. I think it's obvious that they're both against this New World Order cabal, and they are in fact working with the benevolent side, and that makes sense. The Pleiadians are from what I can tell, the single most involved ET race with our planet and with our species. So it makes sense that they're working with the Pleiadians.
Yeah. And I think I'm always very hesitant to talk about Trump and the Pleiadians. Because I feel like I need to hold back a little bit on that because of some of the information I get. So I'm always very cautious around what I say and hesitant. But I think it's becoming much more evident to I think it's becoming much more evident.
It's all coming out. It's all coming out anyway.
Yeah, and I really do think that if somebody is channeling real information and they share too much publicly, there is always the potential that you could jeopardize the mission. And even in a Q drop, they said so much. They said as much as I forgot the drop number, but I remember specifically they're like, be careful what you share. You don't want to jeopardize the mission. You don't, it's like you don't want to give the enemy your secrets. So, not that that's what you would be doing with this information, but it's just a good thing to keep in mind. And as far as Russia goes, we can go back as far as we want in history. Russia's always been the enemy. They're not the enemy of the United States. They're the enemy of the deep state. And there's a reason that they've been demonized for so long. Yep. All the way going back to the space race and before that. You can go into history books and Russia's always been the enemy, but they're not the enemy of us, of the people. They're the enemy. They're a threat to the control system, the cabal, the deep state.
Right. Exactly. You nailed it. That's why they've been demonized for the better part of a century or more, so heavily. It's not because they're actually our enemy. They're the enemy of the controllers that have usurped what the United States originally was supposed to be. And they've been the people controlling it for a long time. And even Edgar Cayce, what came through him was that Russia would be the hope of the world. And that's a very vague thing, and no one really knew what that meant. But now it's becoming very apparent what that meant.
Even Daryl James' testimony, Robert told him, that Russia would be the new world power eventually, and based solely on the amount of natural resources they have. Then we're talking way, way into the future. But anyway, who knows? We can speculate on this all day, but we'll let you continue with some of your messages.
Okay, so some of the other things they've shared with me, and one in particular is Mars, through a personal experience where I was taken off planet. So a lot of information about the love frequency, language, two suns, which is in my book of that occurring in the sky, the moon being man-made, Atlantis, and they call it Atlantis reversal and the timelines, which is very connected to ascension and what we're experiencing now, and a contract that was recently torn up in 2019 or 2020 that was to do with the ownership of the earth of negative ET energies, so where there was a physical contract that was torn up. So their time has ended. All systems on Earth are run by negative ET energies, the royal families included, and money, with a lot of black magic around money and ownership of an energy and a controlled system around money that is very difficult to penetrate for so many people. Tartaria and the Great Reset happening again through the negative agenda, using technology in a negative way to try and reset in a negative way, trying to recreate a situation similar as Tartaria, to create kind of repeat history again in a negative way.
Right.
Discoveries, I spoke about that just now. Technology being used in a negative way. And they said, when I began to consciously channel them in 2009, they said at the time that technology that we were not aware of was around 400 to 1,000 or 2,000 years in advance of what we were being shown. And it increases all the time. So I don't know how advanced that technology is now, but it's certainly more than 2,000 years ahead of what we're being shown. And then the two Earths, Egypt and the Sphinx. Earth is shifting back onto her natural axis, and which is very much to do with everything seems to be tied into Atlantis. And there are many different aspects of ascension and how everything is connected. So ascension is not just one thing that is limited to Earth. Rather, it is ascension. The whole universe is in a process of ascension and evolving and expansion. So it's not limited to Earth. It also includes and they've said very clearly, it also includes them being the Pleiadians. So our natural 13 strands of DNA, not 12 at the time of Atlantis. So now we're going back into a reversal of Atlantis, where things went wrong and negative ET energy came in and overtook Atlantis. And that is what's been happening ever since. We've been on a downward spiral because we've been infiltrated by negative ET energies that have been ruling. I know I had a lifetime in Atlantis where I would not make those same mistakes again. And a lot of us are here now to correct the timeline and the pathway, and it's very connected to Atlantis. And we're here to make better choices and readjust a better timeline for Earth, because it's not limited to Earth. It affects the Pleiadians, it affects other star nations and star systems, it affects everything within the universe. So
Yep.
So there's so much information that they've given, particularly about ascension and the timelines and Atlantis and how it's all connected. some of the other information is that our DNA originally was 13 strands, not 12. And what happened, our DNA was changed by these beings, by these negative reptilian or negative ET energies. And it devolved. But originally it was 13 strands of DNA. And they showed me visually what happened is that it's like a coil or a spring where it's been stretched. And now that contract has gone, so the spring, it's like a coil that has been released again. And we're not even going back to 13 strands. We're going beyond a time of Atlantis. We're evolving. We're kind of going back and jumping ahead of a time of Atlantis. So we're going back, and lots of us are having memories of Atlantis as starseeds, and that is also to do with lost memories and evolving and DNA codes. Our true history is being exposed, and our true origins, a veil of amnesia around the earth. And then, of course, there's also targeting and CIA and other three-letter agencies. So that is just some of the information that they've shared with me over the last.
Right. So there's a lot there, and we can unpack some of it. I want to go back to the advancements in technology that you were talking about, how, thousands of years ahead of us. I just pulled this up because I knew where to find it. Daniel Salter, if anybody does know who he is, he was the author of Life with the Cosmos Clearance. His grandson spoke at our conference this year. He had a above majestic
Cosmos clearance, above top secret, but it's Cosmos.
He said, and when he wrote his book in like 2000 or whatever year it was, he said, as far as technology is concerned, for every calendar year that transpires, military technology increases about 44 and a half years. Today's estimate, according to Patrick Riley, is a 6-to-1 evolution, meaning for every 1 year of we're experiencing 1 year of technological advancement every 6 weeks within the military industrial complex right now. So every 6 weeks that transpires, 1 year of technological evolution has advanced. So we can only imagine. We can't even fathom where we actually are.
So it's exponential growth as far as advancement goes there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And you mentioned Mars earlier, and you kind of brushed past that. Would you mind going a little deeper into what you saw with Mars?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Something I would like to add before I go into Mars is that I don't really believe anything unless I am told it from the Pleiadians, and I don't research things. And I when I first began to channel them consciously, I didn't want to read any other channeled information, or especially Pleiadian, because I didn't want anything to have any influence over what I was doing in the channeling, because I wanted to be sure within me that the information was coming from them and accurate. So it was a while before, and in my book, I wrote word for word because I had to go through a whole process of it was a very personal process when I first began to channel them, especially with the information that every system on Earth is run by negative ET energy, because I had this sentence I would say to myself over and over again that I really believed, and it went something like, "Who in their right mind is going to believe me that I'm channeling the Pleiadians? Like, who's going to do that?" And then I remember reading a book by Barbara Marciniak after I had published my book, and I'd put those exact words in my book. And then I remember being in Galway, and I remember lying in bed and reading her book. And I was just stunned that she had written the same words and that she had gone through the same process. And I think most channelers do that. It seems to be something that is that we have to go through the process of not believing ourselves, which is very, very challenging. But you were asking me about, so that's something I wanted to share, that I don't, even nowadays, I don't really watch other channelers except for Cryon and Bashar and Blossom Goodchild. Those are the three main ones that I will watch every couple of months or every so often, because I resonate with what they're saying very much. So you were asking about Mars. So one of the experiences I had with Mars, which was pretty horrific, I have to say. And when I was having the out-of-body experience on the astral plane, I didn't realize it was Mars. I wasn't sure where I was, but I was taken up into a lift, and there was a woman there with very long, dark, curly hair, who I've since recognized on a news interview, which is interesting. And she had glasses, and she was taking me up into this lift, and then she was showing me over in the distance, kind of off to the right, so not central, but off to the right. And she was showing me, and she was saying, "Look at that." And what I was seeing was everything was kind of red and dusty, but I was seeing that they were, what is the word, rapidly building. They were building, there was a whole construction site, and they were rapidly building with a sense of panic. They were building these huge buildings, tall buildings with lots of windows. And I could see like a red kind of machine. I don't know what you call it, like with a digger thing.
Like a caterpillar.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
exactly. Yeah, and it was red. I remember the color of it still. And the sense of panic, and they wanted and they felt very negative to me. She felt very negative. It didn't feel like it was a good operation going on or construction. It felt that they wanted to build these buildings very quickly, and they were in a hurry to do so. And they wanted, and the reason for that, I felt at the time very strongly, is that they wanted to get the people in very quickly. They were building, it was housing or offices, or it looked more like housing, actually. So that was my experience. And I've had other similar experiences of where I've seen the people afterwards on the news working for. So I saw her a couple of weeks ago, actually, not very long ago at all, where she is someone who's actually working for NASA. And I've had other experiences where I've seen the people afterwards. And one of them works for the CIA, which is interesting. And so there's been a lot of targeting. I've had a lot of experiences with targeting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what's interesting about the Mars? I was at the gym and there was something on TV about Mars, some special on like one of the major networks, and they were talking about the Cydonia region and the pyramids and the face. And I'm like, oh, they're getting ready to like discover some ancient ruins officially on Mars. I think we can expect that to be coming right around the corner as part of this Mars slow rollout, soft disclosure, before we colonize or reoccupy Mars, So I just think it's going to become part of the story moving forward a lot more. And yeah, I mean, in the targeting stuff, yeah, I've experienced it too. It's very real. And obviously, as people are coming forward, sharing this stuff, while we're still in the midst of everything, that is expected. And I think it's a badge of honor at this point, and it's ultimately training because it for one tells us we're on the right path, and two, it allows us to like adapt and overcome and rise above the entire system and everybody, all these perpetrators, right? So uh, I don't we can play the victim to it, but I think changing our mindset surrounding that is how we actually get past that, get through that.
The trauma and the abuse I experienced as a child left me with a sense of a very strong backbone of I will not be, and that was always a sentence I would say to myself, and I never really finished it, but it went something like, I will not be a victim. I will not give you the power to ruin the rest of my life because I'm not able to detach from the memories or the experience or the rape or the whatever it was. I always had that sense with me from the age of 12 of I will be damned if I let you. And that has really been something very positive that I've had in my life, where I've used that sentence now for a lot of the targeting and the through negative technology and frequencies aimed at me, some of which includes voice to skull technology.
Right. Right. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just agreeing.
Oh, it's okay. And there's one dream I had when I was about 12, because I remember I should have been at secondary school, and I was on the astral, and I was having this out of body experience on the astral where I was dreaming of being in a glass building, and everything was glass. The outside was like a like a dark glass that you couldn't see in, but you could see out. And then the whole building was just glass. Like there was the banister for the staircase. Everything was just glass internally. And I remember there was a man there. It was kind of short, and he was in a very nice suit, and people were very well dressed, which was unusual for me because I grew up in a very poverty-stricken area. So people didn't wear suits in the area that I grew up. So it was very. I remember that because it was very unusual that he had very nice clothes on. And it was a couple of years ago, I think, or maybe even this year or the past couple of years. Anyway, I was watching a movie, and I remember seeing the building on the internal on the movie, and the building was or is the MI5 building in London. So that's the it's yeah, it's
So
what you
so the building that you remember going to when you were 12, you've recently discovered is a real building in London.
yeah. Yeah, and my partner was actually telling me last week that the building that the movie is with Daniel Craig, and it's one of the spy movies.
It's not the Born Legacy, is it?
No, Daniel Craig or Craig.
Oh, James 007.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. So, which ties in with what they've said about the star seeds going from the time of Atlantis, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. We've had many lifetimes where we've been tracked and traced by both the positive and negative agendas through some type of technology that is on a higher dimension.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a physical technology, but it is a technology that is physical on a higher dimension, where we are tracked and traced from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. And we are individually known by both the positive and negative agendas. And they've shown me a book where years ago they showed me a book of where they have all our names. So we do get tracked and traced. So they know who we are before we do as children, which is why we have some of these experiences. And one of the other things is that we have been all the sacred people. We have been the Native Americans. We have been the Atlanteans. We have been the Maori. We've been the Africans. We've been the Celtics, where we've gone from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, where we've been tracked and traced, but we've also been targeted by the negative agenda, which is part of the reason that sacred people have been targeted so much in history, such as the Native Americans being a very prime example of people that have been targeted. And we do more and more, we are having memories of having connected to past lives as Pleiadians, but also past lives as Native Americans. And I was one of those children that remembered past lives from a very young age. 5, I think I was, where I was describing to my mum. We had just arrived in Dublin, and I was describing it to her, and we'd emigrated back to Ireland from South Africa, where she'd been for like 20, 30 years. And I never forget the look on her face. The blood just drained, because I was telling her the road down the way and the road names, and I couldn't read or write. But I was telling her the road names and what was over around the corner and what was down there and who I used to be and blah, blah, blah. And she always, I don't know what she ever made of me, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, that's more and more common, especially with starseeds coming in now with more memories than we ever had. People like you were the exception. Some people did come in with memories, but the amnesia is potent. But I think now these new youth children are bringing these memories. They're coming home, or they're coming home, coming back with the memories.
Yeah.
But I really appreciated what you said about the targeting and how they know who we are as a child before we even know, and how they have a list. I think that resonates, and the technology they use is actually existing in another frequency, another dimension. And, this is all very real stuff that you can't go find an article about it, but we understand that it's happening. I mean, now maybe you can find an article about it, but you know what I mean? So that definitely resonates with me. Aaron, did you have any questions for her before we start wrapping this up?
The only thing I would add to that, yes, it's true that we're targeted, and all of that is true. But at the same time, I feel like what doesn't get talked about enough is the fact that they have to still operate within kind of the rules or universal law, right? Because otherwise they would have just locked things down a long time ago and we wouldn't be here talking right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's always good. Why didn't they just do this a long time ago if they're this powerful and this advanced? Does that make any sense? And that's also the argument against an alien invasion. Doesn't make any sense. It's like they would have just invaded. They would have just done that a long time ago. Well, in fact, they did. And that's, like the invasion already happened a long time ago. And now we've been living in that control system. But anyways, I digress. They still have to operate through universal laws. They know this, and that's why they're always putting things out in plain sight, telling us what they're doing, trying to manipulate us rather than just outright coming out and forcing us into enslavement and killing off 90% or whatever they want to do. They would just do it, right? They would just do it. Well, they can't. They have to have us, through our own free will, enslave ourselves, essentially, is what it simplifies down to. Well, the reason it's such, we're in game over for that right now, because the awakening is such a level where they can't get away with that like they used to. They can't. Too many of us are awake. Too many of us are, our consciousness is raising. Too much truth is out. We're too connected now through things like the internet. we're going to start becoming telepathic and all that. I mean, some people already are, but obviously
Right.
on a mass level, that's going to start kicking in here with the ascension more. So it's already game over. And they know this, and I think the ones at the top, at least of the pyramid, know this, and they're just trying to cause as much damage on their way out as possible, and try to save their own butts as much as possible. But anyways, they have to operate within free will and universal law and karmic law and all these kind of things, which is so yes, the targeting is real. Yes, you are being attacked, and they're trying to mess with us, but they can only do so if basically it's authorized. I think in some way is the way I look at it. That's a simplification, obviously, but at the same time, I think it's true. I think there's a certain level of authorization, or you're a match more to that frequency where they're like, oh, now we can reach them. Is if you're too high of a frequency, they're down here, you're up here. It's like, yeah, they can do stuff around you, but they can't really get to you because you're not on that level. And obviously this is a very simplified version.
Yeah.
And there's more nuance to it than that, but in a nutshell, I think that's true.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see it. I kind of mostly because of my experiences as a child that were very negative in the extreme. I always pulled something positive from that because of for example, I connected to the Pleiadians because of that negative experience. So I do see that the negative agenda is creating something very positive for us, actually. And I see it as in an image. When COVID kicked off, I could see an image of kind of like it was kind of like the Grand Canyon area where we were in a valley that was caught with huge cliffs, and the negative agenda was coming, or a group of soldiers were coming towards another group of light warriors. But what happens is we actually, as they come towards us, we rise over and above them. And it is a war, but I do see it in a positive way where, and even with the targeting these days, I see every targeting experience as a way for me to raise my awareness, raise my consciousness. And so it is a battle between light and dark. It is a war between a different species, but I do see a positive outcome, and I do feel very much that they are empowering us to rise up and stop the enslavement of humanity, which has been going on far too long. So there is a positive in what they're doing.
Which is why the dark is allowed to exist in the first place, because it actually is serving a very good purpose, whether they realize that or not, or whether they like that or not. The reason they are allowed to exist is because it's actually benefiting life, all of life, and humanity. We are actually being benefited in the long run in a greater sense from the dark, and we have to take our power back, because really we have all the power within us, and that's what we're waking up to. And that's why the benevolence can't just step in and do everything for us, because then we're being robbed of us being able to step into our power. So they're helping us, like you said, they're helping us. They're making sure we are safely able to do that without just coming and cleaning house for us.
Which is why we can't just have med beds given to us either.
Right.
I was listening to something the other day, and it was talking about how med beds have been turned into a religion, almost like it's another savior program where this whole group of people is like waiting for these med beds to come heal them. And it's like, okay, well, if you get in a med bed and you're all healed up, but you haven't learned any lessons, or you haven't like addressed the emotional trauma or the root of that disease or whatever it is, it's just going to keep coming back. So it's just going to act as a Band-Aid. Yeah, it can patch you up, but it's not going to actually serve humanity at this point in our awareness, right? So it's in a sense, like, it has been turned into a religion where people are looking outside of themselves for a savior, and whether it's a divine being or a med bed, a piece of technology, it's still the same frequency, right? So it can't just be done for us. Just to add to your point, and Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been absolutely amazing, and all of your information resonates. I really do think you're tapping into some real stuff, and I really appreciate everything that you brought to the table. Can you please let our audience know where they can find you, how they can follow you, and get your book and all that?
Thank you so much. And it's been a really lovely interview. And so my website is somaarah.love. My email is the Pleiadianchild@hotmail.com. My book, one of my first book, is called The Pleiadian Child by Carol Noonan, which is my birth name. And I have several courses and workshops coming up. My Facebook is Soma Arah. So you can find me as either Soma Arah or the Pleiadian Child or Carol Noonan. And what else? I also do have a weekly channeling group, which is kind of a closed group, which I then release the videos over the next few days after that has occurred. And that's every Saturday at 7 Irish time. And then I also do private readings and different kind of various different readings. But one of them that I do is private one-to-one Pleiadian channelings.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. And we'll have all those links below in the description for anybody who wants to check out your work and your books and your social media. And again, just thank you so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. I can't wait for everyone to see this because you're bringing a lot of important information forward. And, thank you to everybody who tuned in today. We love you and we can't do this without you. And until next time, have a great evening. Good night. Hello, and welcome to Conference Phone. If you know the name of the conference you'd like to attend, press 1.
Come on.
Using your touch-tone keypad, please enter the first 3 letters of the conference title now. You've selected Secret Space Conference? If that is correct, press 1.
What?
You've selected Full Disclosure Now. If this is correct, press 1. Why don't you just tell me the name of the conference you'd like to attend?
Rebels of Disclosure?
To find the venue nearest you, please enter your 5-digit zip code now. Why don't you just tell me where you want to attend the conference?
Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center?
Rebels of Disclosure is playing at the Pierre Marquette Lodge and Conference Center in Grafton, Illinois, May 12th through 15th, 2025.
Yeah, now I got you.
If you would like to purchase tickets, please visit journeytotruth.online now.